Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm going to be reviewing Chronicles of Drunagor Aftermath by Creative Game Studios. Chronicles of Drunagor Aftermath is a standalone game in the Chronicles of Drunagor line of games. Also, before I go further, I should say a few things. Number one, this is a prototype. All rules and components have to change. Number two, I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. Number three, I know I just said review. I probably should say first impressions based on how much opportunity I've had to dive into this content and how much there is in this prototype. So let's adjust that to the first impressions. That said, I have had a lot of experience with Chronicles of Drunagor over the years, and so I'll be able to tell you kind of generally what the system is, and then focus more so on the changes this brings to the table. Because going back to what I was saying, Chronicles of Drunagor Aftermath is a standalone game in the Chronicles of Drunagor line of games. It is combinable with any content you already have, so if you already have Chronicles of Drunagor, or if you want to pick up more Chronicles of Drunagor, or if you want to go hunt down a copy on the secondhand market while you wait for this to arrive, this stuff will all be combinable. But the general system, before we get into what this adds, the general system is going to be a dungeon crawling system, which is going to be driven by these cubes. You're going to have action cubes on your characters, which you can use for all of their abilities, but you're going to have a ton of other things, such as various gear you're going to be utilizing. This should be down here, I should say. Various gear that you're going to be utilizing those abilities for, those cubes for, as well as your class roll that you're going to be having, as well as upgrading your character. So you just have tons of abilities, and then choosing where to assign various action cubes to get the most out of the system is going to be how you're driving your character. You're going to be running with an initiative line, which is going to determine your action sequence as far as the various classes you have, as well as the enemies in play. And then you're also going to be dealing with 3D terrain. One of the fun things that Chronicles of Drunagor did, the original system and this as well, is going to be the nature of having multiple levels of terrain, as well as an open door system. Over here I have my two characters, I have two baddies over here, but then as soon as we go ahead and open the door, you're going to reveal this door and then set up the next sequence of a map. So effectively you have this chaining, sprawling board that right now, the way I have it set up right now, is more for the shot, for the film shot over here, but this would immediately lead into a bunch of more terrain, so you have to be prepared to expand your board as you slowly open a door, see what's behind it, and try to work your way through whatever challenges the game is throwing at you. Basically, it's a dungeon crawler. A dungeon crawler where your characters are going to level up across multiple plays, as well as having a action book, which you're going to be reading text. There's going to be an adventure book, I can't remember the interaction book, where you can go ahead and wander upon some sort of, I don't know, a fountain, a skeleton on the floor, and then start poking and prodding various interaction points in order to see where that will lead you and what things will open up. But basically, it's a dungeon crawler. It's a campaign-based dungeon crawling system with a very unique action selection system that is very, very enjoyable as far as the powers and abilities feeling this game gives you. Again, this is a very short rundown. I've done a lot of content on Chronicles of Drunagor over the years. The original Chronicles of Drunagor, the Apocalypse expansion, all the various content you see, gameplays, reviews, all of that is on the channel if you want to see my thoughts until now. Well, I guess I should catch you up to date. If you don't want to watch all of that, my thoughts until now is Chronicles of Drunagor is a 4 out of 5 for me. I enjoy a lot about it. Some of the things that do get in the way of the experience is the sheer table space and the amount of content and components that are going on. There's a few other elements. I do think the action selection system, like the actual cube management, as well as the powers and abilities feeling, I think that is absolutely top notch. The maintenance and management of it all is where it can be a little overwhelming at times. That's kind of just catching you up to date on Chronicles of Drunagor and my thoughts and feelings so far. What does Aftermath bring to the table? So, again, I can only talk about what's in the prototype here so far, so I do have a limited experience of all the things it has to offer, but my prototype came with 3 characters, so there's going to be 3 new characters you can go ahead and utilize, and again, incorporate the other characters. So if you wanted more powers, more abilities, more nuance as far as how each of these characters operates, you're going to have more combinable content with your existing content, and new characters to play as. That's number 1. Number 2, we have new terrain over here. We have new terrain elements that's not on this map over here, but basically it's going to give you more ways to elevate terrain, giving you various modifiers to striking from or to elevated terrain. It's just another element adding more to the immersive terrain elements. Again, the board already has like these overlays and these bridges and these various different height differences. It just adds another layer. Does it grasp? Well, again, I didn't get to opinions. I'll get to opinions soon. It adds more terrain over here. It obviously adds new content to the game, so new adventures to go through, that's going to be there. And then the biggest thing for me personally is it introduces the element of a one-shot mode, as opposed to the general Chronicles of Drunagor, where you level up your character across the campaign. It has a one-shot mode where killing various enemies is going to give you various experience points, so you can level up as you progress through it. If you've played games like Massive Darkness, Zombicide, any other dungeon crawler that kind of, or Mage Knight, any dungeon crawler that levels you up through the experience itself, this now gives you that one-shot mode for those who don't want to sign up to the larger commitment that is Chronicles of Drunagor, the whole experience. I believe it offers you the ability to kind of create your own one-shot modes as well. I haven't really dabbled with that. Anyways, that's the new stuff it offers, which means it's time for my review. And again, first impressions. Time for my first impressions. This very much is a prototype. I have not had a lot of time to fully experience the game, but as far as first impressions go, new characters, nice to have. I can't say I heavily feel like the nuanced differences between the various character classes. It's been a while since I dove into my original copy of Chronicles of Drunagor, but the new characters, they all add their own feeling to the game. They all feel very cool as far as, very synergistic as far as the abilities. They are fun to add, and they break out a little bit from the standard tropes that some of the base game characters had. There are so many characters in the base game that already, some of those were already breaking out, but new characters, it's fun to have. New content in general is always a fun thing. The elevated terrain. I don't care either way. I'm not against this. Nothing wrong with this, but I think that this is just it's another way to add elevation to a game that already has elevation. I have no problems with it, but it's not really any particular game-breaking element, which brings me to the one-shot mode, which is going to be the biggest aspect of this. And the one-shot mode is both good and bad. Again, at least based on my limited experience with it so far. The one-shot mode overall allows you to experience Chronicles of Drunagor and allows you to experience in a more condensed format. So those of you who don't want to sign up for a large, epic, sprawling campaign game which your character levels up across multiple sessions, that's great to have. For me personally, from having played Chronicles of Drunagor, the campaign mode, as well as playing the one-shot mode, I do think it allows me to jump into Chronicles of Drunagor while giving me, like, I don't know, 50% of the arc of the characters, but it is more limited. I still think you're going to get a better overall experience as far as character progression by playing through a full campaign arc. That said, I myself have definitely, my level of, my ability to commit to giant campaign games, where it was 4 years ago versus where it is today, because of the sheer amount of those games, does make it harder to dive into those. So it is one of those things where I think they did do a very good job with the one-shot mode as far as giving you the feeling of upgrading your character, but it certainly is more limited as far as the scope. I think that I'm comparing to my original experience with Chronicles of Drunagor versus my experience with the one-shot mode here. I think the original experience definitely felt more epic in scale, and it felt like it had more progression across. I think that the nice thing with Chronicles of Drunagor is some games kind of dole out experience slowly enough that it feels like you really have to work your way for every single upgrade, and that wasn't the case. I liked the progression of the original game. It's just that I don't sign up for, 20, 30 game campaigns to the same frequency. So both things are true. I love the fact that they have a one-shot mode. It is definitely true that it doesn't give you the full experience, which I don't know if I necessarily expect. I think it's hard. I think that whenever you do a one-shot mode, it is very hard, especially if you are comparing it to the original thing. Mage Knight stands on its own. It doesn't really have a campaign mode. Those other games I mentioned, Zombicide, Massive Darkness does have a campaign mode to an extent. Zombicide has introduced it, but those games kind of started as one-shot modes. But when I think of this compared to something like Primal, the one-shot mode in Primal is incredibly well done because it kind of just levels your character up to a certain arc. So you don't have the feeling of progression, but you do have the feeling of power. So there are these different trade-offs. Overall, at this point I'm rambling. I'll sum up my thoughts on the one-shot mode as it's great. It's great to have. It's a solid mode to have to the game. Just don't think that it will give you the same feeling and experience as the full campaign arc. So, overall, thoughts and opinions of Chronicles of Drunagor. The game, my overall thoughts and opinions on the game itself haven't heavily changed. I like this iteration of it. I like the one-shot mode. I like the new characters. The action selection mode still feels incredibly cool, as it did years ago. Like, at this point, has it been 5 years since Chronicles of Drunagor came out? 6 years? However long it's been, it still feels as fun as it originally did. It still does have some of the table-sprawling elements that it originally did. It has some of the accessibility improved because of the one-shot mode, but it does so at the cost of a slightly less involved experience. Overall, my rating-wise is still going to come in at a 4 out of 5. I think if you are looking for a dungeon crawling experience that is going to give you both the epic potential scale of a full, campaign arc, as well as the accessibility of a one-shot mode, with a system that feels incredibly rewarding, as well as incredibly that extra level of both the 3D elements as well as the opening up doors and seeing your board unfold as you go. This does a good job giving you all of that experience, and this is a good opportunity to dive into it if you are new to Chronicles of Drunagor for the first time. If you are someone who is already a Chronicles of Drunagor fan, if you're wondering, do I need all this content? I already have all this other content. Well, first of all, if you've played through all the content you have, then yes, this is great to go ahead and get your hands on. On the other hand, if you still have a lot of Chronicles of Drunagor content and you haven't gone through it, do you need this? I don't think you need it for the new characters. I don't think you need it for the elevated terrain. You might want it for the one-shot mode. That would be the main element. And honestly, I don't know what compatibility they have. Like, are they going to have a rule session for the one-shot mode as far as ways to use your own content? I'm not actually sure of that. But that would be the one hesitancy, just figuring out who you are and whether this is something that you need, want, whether you're new to the system, old to the system, and all of that. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful in some way, and as always, I hope you have a good one.